I've found whether it was real estate sales or it was the way I, put burgers together at Red Robin, or it's the way I do my YouTube videos, society is really good at telling you if you're doing something wrong. I feel like you go through that many different times in life. And people go, it's their fault, it's society's fault, and it's a famous thing, right? You point one finger, the three point back at you. Every time I look back and say, well, what can I do differently?
Belfort, the Wolf is here in the house for the Wolf's Den podcast. I want to dedicate this podcast to my dad. Many of you know he just passed away last week, so it's my first podcast since then. I got a really special guest on today. I got a guy he's like, okay, maybe he's not up in the level of Prince or Madonna, but he only has one name. All right, his name is Kevin. I said, what's your last name? No, I don't have a last name. He's Meet Kevin. So we got Meet Kevin here. He's the man. He's a celebrity in the making. Meet one name, right? But he's an awesome dude. And it's a great story how I met Meet Kevin. So you guys probably all at this point have seen the Grant Cardone, the infamous Grant Cardone podcast, where, I don't want to say it, but Grant made an ass of himself, all right? Because I don't know what he was thinking. Anyway, kind of like it was an expose, it turned out to, and it was not meant to be that. But right away, deconstruction started coming out. People looked at this and they were just shocked because Grant is supposed to be this top sales trainer, right? Kevin is actually a really, really up-and-coming and successful, by his own right, real estate agent in broker or agent. You know,
broker, hey, but you know what? Both work.
Yeah. In Las Vegas, right? Now, do you service where?
Sorry, Ventura, California.
Oh, Ventura.
Yeah, yep.
I thought you were in Vegas.
Yeah, I get that a lot. People are like, hey, Kevin, you seem like you should be on the strip, selling on the strip.
I genuinely, it's so funny.
No, all good. Yeah, Ventura, and what's fascinating.
Better, I think Ventura's better.
Oh, it's better. And I used to live in Aventura, which is where Grant Cardone lives. So I dropped the letter.
Right? Yeah. So you, so a bunch of people went out there. You were the first, actually, and you did this really, really funny and really actually impressive deconstruction of my event, my podcast with Grant Cardone. And interestingly enough, is that, I'm going to be honest with you. And I think you realize I had no agenda with the guy. Like, I wasn't having him on to try to sharpshoot him or take it. I was hoping to have this amazing conversation where we could both, supposedly two of the top sales trainers in the world, we could just exchange ideas. People would learn, right? And it quickly evolved into like just complete chaos where I'm like, this guy doesn't know anything about sales and he wouldn't answer those basic questions. So one of the things that came through, I don't want to make this up, I want to talk about you, but I thought it was, since you did this deconstruction, which you guys should all check out, what's your website?
Meet Kevin on YouTube.
It's Meet Kevin on YouTube. He's a huge following on YouTube, and he did this and he got massive amount of traction. I think, in fact, it was such a good deconstruction you did, and my hat's off to you. You got even more views than the podcast, I think, because it's shorter and it's more, but it's like the best of. So if you haven't watched it, you should watch it. But one of the things that really interests me is that, you noticed that I didn't have an agenda, and I got to see my own body language, because I'm so unconscious about it. In other words, I teach body language. I teach tonality. And when I teach it, I basically do what you did. I essentially slow it down and deconstruct, but to actually see someone do it to me, right? And it was funny. The one comment you made, which was hysterical, I think the Wolf made a mistake here, dude. When I actually got I was dying to jump across the table and choke the guy. I was like, it's so funny because you were actually right that I shouldn't have. I finally got a little nasty with the guy because after a while, it was almost like I'm like, what the hell is wrong with this guy? I felt like I was a hostile witness on Perry Mason or something, those old TV shows. Anyway, so we'll get into the whole Grant Cardone thing. You have your own history with Grant Cardone where he actually sued you.
That's right.
Right, which is insane. All right, because it was ridiculous reason why. But let's start off first with you, and then we'll get up to the present, talk about the infamous podcast, and talk about your career, where you're going, all right?
Absolutely, let's
do it. Let's go to the beginning. So you're
27.
27, you're a young guy, okay? You're a good-looking guy, right? You're from where?
So I was born in Germany. And first of all, I just want to interject and say I'm so sorry to hear about your father.
Thank you.
And, I'm so sorry.
He's a good man.
Well, I was born in Germany. which when I was in kindergarten, I always had an accent, which was terrible because
Really?
the teacher, now I don't have one. I don't even know when it went away, but I'd be in kindergarten and the teacher would say, Kevin, what do you think? I go, hold on, I'm sinking. I'm sinking. Yeah, you're falling. I'm sinking. And people are like, Kevin, you're not sinking. You're out on a boat. I felt like there was some sinking going on your podcast.
So are you from German descent? Are you military family? What is it?
Everybody's German in my family.
Really?
So I guess I can never run for president.
I say, are you first generation?
Yeah. First generation out here. My mother was still is a little bit of a nomad. She likes to move around. So she thought, oh, South Florida is the place we're going now. So I'm 18 months old right after Hurricane Andrew. Here I am in Florida, being enrolled in American schools. And I've got the thick German accent and kind of worked my way from there.
Wait a second. So was it East Germany, West Germany?
It was West Germany. So right on sort of the border of the Netherlands.
North
of
By the
Düsseldorf.
way, I think you're so young that there was no East Germany when you were born. Almost, it was right around the time that you were born, right?
The problem is I'm clueless when it comes to German history. I can barely even read and write German, but I could speak it fluently, which is so weird. Yeah.
From your parents, right?
Yeah, we would just speak German at home. And now I have a child. I have 2 children, and I speak German to them exclusively. And they always want to answer back in English. No, German 9.
All right, just hold that thought for a moment. Got to hear from our sponsor, pay the bills, and I'll be right back with you. All right, guys, here's a great one. Going to be more somber than usual for this one because this is a very serious one. Ready? It's a website called BetterHelp.com. This is my sympathetic tone, right? No, in all seriousness, guys, I've been in therapy pretty much my entire life, as you can imagine, right? Seeing psychiatrists, psychologists, right? I believe in that stuff. Listen, I really believe that, to go through this world that we live in, right? And not have some professional to speak to, just to let it out to someone that has been trained to just listen to what you have to say to help you make sense of the world. If you're not feeling, right about things, you're anxious, you're depressed, you're having anger issues, marriage problems, whatever it might be, right? I mean, and honestly, I almost feel, and I'm going to be dead honest with you about this, right? I feel like that therapy is almost like a vitamin. I think on some level, it's like almost a required thing to go through life in a healthy way. You don't have to do it, okay? And, there's many different types of therapy. I'm not talking about in-depth psychoanalysis here with psychiatrists. I'm just someone to bounce ideas off of, right? To let your secrets out to someone, to know that it's confidential and that they're trained to listen and not give you stupid advice, right? Well, that's what this company BetterHelp has created because they do it online, and that allows you to have this ability to speak to a licensed professional. No matter where you are in the world, anywhere in the world, you could do it through phone, text, video chat. You get it? Any way you want. Phone, text, computer. It doesn't matter. And they have expertise in every area. See, because of leveraging this ability by using an online portal, it's almost like Uber for the mind in some level. It's like you can always have access to a professional whenever you want. You get it? And it's very, very affordable. Honestly, I really think you should just, if you have any... so much about going to find a therapist, right, is that there's inertia. You just don't know how to take the first step. You don't want to see someone, go visit someone. So I get it, right? Wait in the waiting room. This removes all of that from the equation. This is having personal therapy where essentially they bring it right to your doorstep because you're doing it on phone or computer or whatnot. And they have therapists that are experts in every area. And but if you don't like one, you could switch to another one. You get it? Really powerful stuff. I really think if you're in therapy right now and you're not liking your therapist, give one of these a shot. Seriously. I mean, I think it's a really cool thing to be able to go into therapy and not to have to drive somewhere. I don't have time for that. It's very difficult. And it's something you should make time for, by the way. But we often don't make time for the things that we should make time for. Well, this takes the time element out of the equation. No longer matters anymore. They make it convenient. They bring it to you, right? Powerful stuff here. And you get some added benefits here by signing up through this website here, right? Because it's the podcast. Here's the deal. Ready? Best of all, the affordable option. You can get an additional 10% off the price, okay, by entering the discount code WOLF. All right. So again, that's betterhelp.com/wolf. You fill out the questionnaire so they can help assess your needs, match you with the right counselor, right? 10% discount. And again, I mean, I think I'm going to make sure you got everything here that you should. Yeah, they're in all 50 states too, by all 50 states licensed. All right. And there's a great one. Ready? Financial aid available if money's a problem. They leave nothing up to chance here, right? It's affordable, professional, convenient, secure, confidential. I bet you there's so many of you who are watching this right now that you knew you need to do this at one point in your life, right? But it wasn't convenient. Just that alone, right? It wasn't convenient. Now it's just a touch away. Give it a shot. Just, I would say this, just try one. Try one if you think you need it. Try one appointment. See how good you feel afterwards, just by sometimes lightening the load. You speak to someone, it could really help. And especially if you're depressed, you're feeling angry, anxious. This stuff is getting it out, talking to someone, it actually works. All right. Obviously, you have to like the person, you have to get a good match. That's why they have so many people on board. There's a lot of options there for you. There's really every reason to try it. And I really can't think of one reason not to try it. Think about that. Powerful, right? So give it a shot. BetterHelp.com/wolf. You get a discount. I think you'll be really happy that you did this. All right, guys, this is about a cool service called Plastique, and that is with a Q. Plastique with a Q. Okay, here's the deal. Very simple. I'm going to give you the great elevator pitch for Plastique, right? Imagine a service where you could essentially pay all your bills, any expense you want, even actually float cash like this for a business owner, right? Do everything, but all of it on a credit card, even when they don't take credit cards. Get it? In other words, imagine if you could use your credit card at places that doesn't take credit cards, right? That's what Plastique does. They allow you to use your credit card for non-credit card accepting entities. So you can pay all your home bills through credit cards. You can juggle cash flow as a business owner by using Plastique. You get it? They do all of that. And by the way, they guarantee their service that nothing ever gets paid late. So it's almost like your own insurance policy to paying if you're lazy or you're disorganized to having your bills paid on time. In fact, they're so confident that they said if you're late, they'll pay the late fee. It's a pretty cool service, right? But the most important thing with this, they can actually allow you, smart here, watch, if you know how to play the rewards game with points and stuff, you can start actually paying for things on credit cards that you normally couldn't, and you start getting extra points for airline tickets and stuff. And let me tell you, that's some value, especially with airline, I know the airline stuff, right? Those points add up. I fly all over the world first class for free because of all the points I have from spending money on credit cards, right? So just imagine now all these extra points you get, the convenience you get, all right? But to me, is another hidden value here. As a business owner, right, you actually could use this to manage cash flow. Let's say there's some things that you normally could never charge on your credit card, but you don't feel like doing, you get to see by putting it on the card, all right, and then they go through your card, and then they make the payment by check. It appears that you paid by check to the vendor, okay, but you actually got to take the money out of your credit card. So you could juggle cash like that. Pretty powerful. And they charge less than 2.5% per transaction. Pretty cheap, right? Now, here's the deal. Great offer for you right now. You're going to love this one, right? Go to plastique.com/wolf, all right? You get your first $50 fee-free. Think about that one, all right? But honestly, I wouldn't really care about that. I mean, honestly, I care about the service itself, right? I wouldn't do it for the special. I would do it for the fact that it just makes sense. Because you can juggle cash flow, get reward points, all right? Frequent flyer miles. Well, I mean, let me tell you, there is a way to play this game here. I'm sure if you really put your mind to it, to really make this thing pay off in a big way. And of course, there's the obvious benefit just from ease of use. It makes it so easy for you. And remember, time is money. So any company that allows you to not waste time paying all these bills and doing all this stuff, they do it for, wow, it's like almost having your own bill paying service at some level. Not quite, but close to that. So check it out again. Let me tell you the exact, make sure I get this right here. It's Plastique, Plastique, Q. plastique.com/wolf. Get that $50 fee free. Not bad, right? Okay. Again, that first $50 fee free with plastique.com/wolf. What do you think it is about Germans that makes them such great engineers? Is there something about the language or the upper, something like, it's like Indians, like from India, right? They are notoriously amazing at like spelling bees and like coding and same thing, Chinese are good. Why is there something about the Germans that make them great engineers? What is it, you think?
That's an interesting question. I feel like what's going to happen is people are going to zoom out of this podcast and people are going to analyze me and I'm going to see things about me that I didn't even know. And this is like one of those questions where it's like, oh, I haven't even thought about that. What's interesting about Germans, though, that at least I've found, and this is just my opinion, not based on research here, but Germans don't have the same kind of sarcasm that Americans have, maybe not the same kind of humor. I think that leads them to have maybe more serious lives, like very dedicated into what's very important to them. I try to joke around with my family all the time, and I'll crack jokes, and they'll look at me, and they don't get it. And I'm like, oh, that's right, I'm in Germany. Different mentality.
Like Drax the Destroyer. They don't take, nothing goes, everything's literal with them, right?
It's totally literal. And I don't know, maybe that has to do with sort of this, like, hey, you want to buy a Sennheiser microphone. It's always made in Germany's plastered on it. It's all this mechanics made in Germany.
Right.
Whatever.
So your mother moved there. You how old?
Yeah, so I was 18 months old, moved to South Florida.
So you have no memories of Germany, right? Too young. Right?
I mean, I've visited, but no memories.
Right, okay, got it.
Not when I was
all right.
yeah.
So, a little bit of accent, right? So how'd you do in school? Good student, bad student?
School was interesting. I definitely struggled my first few years to up until probably second grade. I was in a private school. I was definitely the bottom of my class.
Okay.
Went to a public school, and what was weird then was bottom of my class there was like top of my class at the public school, but that only lasted like 2 years.
Right.
And then I started playing video games. And then I went right back to the bottom of the class. I am figuring out how can I escape security and skip class and go play some games at home.
Got it.
Yes.
So then, all right, so you graduate from high school. You go to college?
Yeah, so the interesting thing is I met Lauren, my wife now, in Paris when I was 16 years old.
But she's not French.
She's from Ventura, California, and I was living in South Florida. So we meet in Paris on a school trip, 10 days. We met on the first day, April 1st, 2008, and everybody thinks we're jokes because when I bring that up, it's like, you guys are kidding, right? But anyway, we met there, and we were long distance for a year, and her parents started thinking, Lauren's going to end up moving to Florida because she's a year older, so she's getting ready to go into college.
Right.
She's going to end up moving to Florida. Let's invite Kevin to live at our house. So I moved in with Lauren and her parents. And that was at 17 years old, and then I graduated high school in Ventura, California. I left for my senior year.
Is your dad active in your life or no?
He is, yeah. My parents divorced when I was 6 years old, and so since I was fortunate enough to be able to kind of pull my father to California,
okay,
I also pulled my mother to California, but then she moved again because that's her thing. She was.
What did your mom do growing up?
Kind of the odd jobs. Money was not something that was really big in our family until, at least I credit really sales to having transformed my life.
Right.
Real estate sales. And real estate investing, of course. But,
right.
After the divorce, my life growing up was really a matter of my father saying, Kevin, I've got this many 20s left in the bank account when we're at, WAMU, Washington Mutual Chase now, taking out, money from the ATM to go get a burger or something like that.
Wow.
So it was.
What did your dad do for a living?
So he was a master carpenter, they say in Germany, and he came and started a kitchen design and construction company here. And at first, he was just doing things on his own. He was profitable. And at the same time, about the divorce came around, he had actually started 10xing his business, which the downside with that was so many employees in construction, especially in the kitchen industry, where in my opinion, the margin just isn't that big.
Yeah.
At the divorce, he ended up going bankrupt with his construction company at the same time of the divorce. So, I mean, we really went from, one of the nicest parts of South Florida, Weston Hills Country Club, for a brief period of time, a couple years. So from nothing to, okay, now it's working. And then right back down to, back to counting the 20s. So it was fascinating. And I still remember as a child, being in tears and crying over, oh my gosh, we're losing our house. Our house it's going through foreclosure. I mean, I didn't know what that stuff meant then.
Yeah.
But I knew what it felt like. I knew what it felt like to have no money and to be on the edge of these problems. At the same time, the divorce. I went to 8 different schools as a child. I was just torn around all the time.
All right, just hold that thought for a minute here. We'll hear from our sponsor, and we'll come right back here. All right, Indochino men's suits. Listen, guys, I am a big believer that the best suits are those that you get custom made, right? I've been getting suits custom made. I can't remember. Wow. I think I got my first one back in, I'm dating myself, right? 1989. I paid probably $3,000 back then. Nowadays, you know what it costs for a custom made suit, a really good one? $6,000, $8,000. I mean, really great top quality suits. Don't let them kid you. Say, oh yeah, $1,000 is, that's not true. There is one exception though. This company, Indochino, has actually cracked the code for getting you these ultra fine men's suits. Let me just tell you something, right? They say the suit makes the man. It's something about a great men's suit, a bespoke, custom-made suit that just makes you feel like you're a better man when you wear it. This company makes suits like that. They fit perfectly, right? And they're like at one fraction of the price that you would normally pay for a custom-made men's suit. When I tell you the price, you think I'm lying to you, right? That's how inexpensive. I don't want to use the word cheap because these things reek of wealth, these suits, right? But I'm going to tell you, you know what they charge? You ready for this? Now, this is with the discount you get from this podcast. What if I told you can get a premium, like ultra high quality men's suit custom made to you so it fits perfectly? Ready? You're going to die. $399. $399. That's getting $30 off because of this podcast. But by the way, even at the full price of $420, I mean, it's ridiculous. This company, now there's two ways you can go here. You can go to one of their stores, right? And they'll fit you to do the whole thing. Or they show you how to do the same process online. So you can just go online and get your suit. I'm talking about the finest fabrics out there, the latest styles, and made exactly to fit your frame. Guys, I'm really hard to fit. I'm sure you're like me, unless you're like a model or Calvin Klein model or something, right? Come on, we're built differently. And when you wear a cheap men's suit that doesn't fit you right, it's like the worst thing in the world. Seriously, dress for success. Try an Indochino suit. Okay, listen, I'm telling you, let me give it to you right now. The website's Indochino.com. Enter the promo code WOLF, all right? $399. I mean, honestly, it's ridiculous. And all I'm asking for is this, right? Just try one suit. That's good for wedding parties. It's good for big, listen, but I want you to try just one. Just try one Indochino suit. Get that feeling of seeing what it's like to put on a suit that's custom made, the finest fabric. Tell me how great you feel. Just imagine how good you'll feel going out, whether it's on a date or whatever it might be, just a business meeting, whatever it might be, in a custom-made suit. In business terms, you'll end up being more effective as an influencer, a persuader. You'll make the money back tenfold, I'm sure. There's nothing like a suit that is custom made. And Indochino.com, they have cracked the code to do this in an affordable way. All right? Go to Indochino.com. Promo code again is WOLF. And believe me, you will be very glad you did this. All right, so when time you reached 16, 17, you meet your future wife, right?
Yeah.
So you say the beliefs that you had, listen, my parents, they weren't poor, right? We were middle class,
Sure.
right? Low middle class, maybe, but they were both, always had money in the bank to pay for food.
Sure.
But we didn't have money for luxuries.
Right.
My parents were really conservative, Depression era mentality, never owned their own businesses, didn't believe in sales or marketing, thought it was evil, right?
Yep.
And you can look from me that I went the exact opposite way. Yeah. I think people either emulate their parents or they go the exact opposite way. What about you? Yeah. Did you? You saw all this stuff happening. You felt the struggle, right? The worry, and obviously you ultimately became very successful. But how about like when you were 16 and 17? What did you think about that?
I always thought to myself when I was 16 or 17, I was also a police explorer at the time. So I spent 3 years volunteering for the police department and going on ride-alongs. And so I saw really these, not only our own financial problems, but I saw the worst of society. I saw people who were struggling, and I'm not talking about anything other than just going to domestic violence case, to the people living on the street, petty crime, all that day-to-day small stuff. And I'm thinking to myself, this is kind of a jaded view of life to get at 16 years old. And then comparing that to what we were going through, I realized the common denominator seemed to be at least a decent level of money was necessary not to have problems. And watching my father's business fail with as many employees as he had, and really in the construction industry.
How many employees did he have?
Oh, at the time he must have had somewhere 8 to 12 employees. But what he found was, once in construction at least, where there wasn't margin, this is what I've since learned also the hard way, what I found is when you're in a business where you have a lot of employees, there's workers' comp, there are payroll taxes, there are insurances, there's liability, there are mistakes. If you're not selling something that has a profit margin in it, you will go bankrupt. And this is where I see, wow, why is it that companies like Apple are successful? Why are companies, high-end companies successful? It's because there's margin in their product, and then they can sell it. And that's where I realized, well, what is the most ultimate high-margin business? Sales. When I initially, I started working at Jamba Juice, went to Red Robin, made, yeah.
Jamba Juice?
All right, okay. Yes.
You're selling smoothies?
So I was selling what I called smoothies, and I hope I don't get sued for this. Don't sue me, bro. No, whoever's listening, don't sue me, bro.
It'll only be Jamba Juice that sues you, not me.
No, I know, right? So Jamba Juice, I was selling these smoothies, and we were supposed to upsell smoothies with these sandwiches. And that's really where I started learning sales, because when I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I thought, I just tell people, you want to rap? I sucked. I knew nothing about sales. And my manager told me, it's like, Kevin, you got to build rapport with these people. I go, what's rap art? I don't even know what the heck is going on. So I start trying these things, and I realize, wow, even a little basic amount of sales knowledge can actually transform your ability to sell. So here I am, not only selling smoothies, but then I started selling what I call, this is the part where I don't want to get sued, but I'm going to say it anyway. I got insurance now. Unless the insurance company hears that. So I was selling what I called these deception wraps, because they were selling these wraps that you could eat with your smoothie, and in the middle was the sauce. But they would... So
they looked bigger than they were.
Yeah, it put the branding around it. It looked a lot bigger. You open it up, you got, 40% of the sandwich you thought you had. Anyway, so you went from selling this, and after a year of actually learning how to sell and saying, wow, I'm actually selling a lot more, learning a little bit about sales,
What was the first thing that you learned about sales? Rapport, you mentioned. Anything else? And that's not really... See, here's the thing. So Jamba Juice is like transactional sales. It's not real sales. It's like someone who works at the checkout line, theoretically you're selling stuff at A&P or Grand Union. It's like, you're selling cans of tuna fish, but that's not real sales like that you do now. But I understand. So rapport was one thing. What else did you learn at this point?
Well, see, my background, I came from that police explorer background.
Sure.
I was really jaded. So every time people came in the door, they were a criminal to me. They're here to steal my tip jar. These bastards are going to... I shouldn't say that. These people are going to...
My father's favorite word, bastards. Everyone was a bastard. Those
I'm
bastards.
serious. I just... That person is a fake $5 bill. I smell it. I'm feeling the money. I'm like, I can do this.
So you weren't a particularly trusting guy.
No. I was so jaded. I mean, maybe some of that still comes through in some of my videos, not to mention any Grant Cardone exposed.
Well, we'll get to that.
But really, when I finally started trying to see, okay, wait, I can help people. They're coming in hungry. Maybe I can help sell them a wrap at the same time. Maybe, and if they're going to get a discount and they're going to get some perceived extra value out of this, great.
So you shifted your perspective.
Yeah, and it worked. It was surprising. And just recently, by the way, I read your book. I audiobooked it. I say read because I feel like it makes me sound like I'm smarter than I am, but I just listened to it on audiobook. Really good. And it also related to me because I'm like, wow, that's interesting. It just from my manager saying, hey, you know what, instead of, being so cynical to people, maybe be a little nicer, AKA stop being a douche.
Right.
You'd sell some more, and I sold some more. Then what's funny is even though I learned that, I start performing better. They give me a 10-cent raise, and I'm like, I'm out of here. I'm going to Red Robin. Start working at Red Robin for $9. I'm like, thanks for educating me. Bye.
So you did that. You went to Red Robin. When did you realize though that this is a dead end?
Red Robin?
Yeah, like
I
gotta.
realized it was a dead end.
What was your moment? I'm not fucking leaving.
No, I said I'm fucking leaving at Red Robin, and so this is great. What happened at Red Robin? I was gonna take a sip, but then see, I get distracted. It's like squirrel. So I'm at Red Robin, and the manager. Oh, so I wanted to be a server. I always wanted to do that sort of customer service. Like I want to wait on people. So they took me from the host stand though, and then they put me in the kitchen in the expo line. And I'm like, no, I want to work with the people. I went from working with the people at Jamba Juice. Now I want to work with the people here. Even though I had to do the back shelves at Jamba Juice too and stuff like that. Nobody wants to do whatever. Sometimes you have to go through the dirt to get where you want to go. And so I'm at Jamba Juice, or I'm at Red Robin now. I'll never forget this day. The manager pulls me aside and says, Kevin, we can't make you a server right now, but you're doing really well here. You are on the schedule for 5 shifts this week. You're going to make $900 a month this month, and maybe you'll make $950 next month. Like you're on the up and up here. Things are good. And at the time,
I guess you're living in Venezuela. That's good money, maybe. But
for 5 hours until the inflation kicked. Yeah, that's terrible over there. But yeah, so at the time though, what's crazy is I had so much fear because he's right. This is the most money I've ever made. I got no extra money. So I'm freaking out because I'm like, he's right. This is a lot of money. Well, he didn't know this at the time, but I had taken my real estate exam. And I told him, I said, well, I want to also bring to your attention, I just got my real estate license and I'm at that position where I have to make a decision. Do I want to continue here? Or
with an illustrious career at Red Robin?
Hey, I'll make it to a waiter one day. One day. And, should I continue here? Or I have to leave and I have to do real estate sales.
Okay.
The manager looked at me and he says, real estate sales, you're not going to make it out there. There's so many people out there selling. You can't make it. You're going to make way more money here. You're going to do that for 6 months. You're going to fail and you'll come back. I quit next day. Yeah. Oh, he got fired, by the way, like 6 months later. How ironic.
Now he sells real estate?
No. Now he's renting a room somewhere. And I feel bad for the guy. Maybe we need to get him into sales.
So you started, you into real estate, right? Mm-hmm. And tell me this, how old were you at the time?
I started real estate at 18. That's when I got my real estate license. Okay. And I started selling real estate January. I was 18 for a month when I started selling real estate. And got into sales.
Did it start working for you right away?
No. No, because, what's funny is my first year of real estate, I thought, I'll just get out here and I'll just start trying to sell people. I'll just start calling people. But I was clueless, right? So I started reading any kind of sales training I could get my hands on, which at the time, I can't even remember some of these. I mean, there are books from like the 80s where people are like, send people dynamite postcards and they'll open them. It's like this kind of stuff. So I never really learned how to communicate. And I almost kind of feel like I had to learn that myself looking back. And so it was, before I closed my first deal, it was 9 months. But, that first deal, I mean, it took every bit of those 9 months. But over time, I started learning, wow, what's interesting is, and this is where sales became so powerful to me, is that whole year, the first 9 months, I'm like, this deal's happening, it's not happening, it's happening, it's not happening. It was always on the brink of canceling or some disaster happening. We had an eviction. My first deal was a 6-unit apartment building. Mm-hmm. We've got evictions happening. Tenants are stopping to pay rents. We've got deals canceling. Prices are falling. It was kind of a disaster. And it wasn't until I got that first check that I realized, wow, I made as much money in one sale that I would make in 2 years.
What was the first check for?
The first check was somewhere around $14,000. And that would have taken me at that rate, probably somewhere around 1.5 years, 2 years of working as an expo at Red Robin. And so sales really transformed me. And I'm not just saying that because you're the sales guy. I look at it, I go, then I started connecting the dots. I go, wait a minute, what happened to my father? He's, in this very expensive business of construction, not so heavily focused on sales, which in sales, you really have this infinite margin.
Right.
It doesn't cost me anything to go sell a 6-unit apartment building. Hey, I used to take the pictures myself. Whatever I could do to save money because I didn't have any money. I passed out black and white flyers because I'm like, sorry, I don't have any money. I would tell people
I can't afford the color toner.
I can't afford the color. And I mean, that probably didn't necessarily help me sell, but I would say this kind of stuff. And it was really eye-opening that first year of sales where I felt like it was unrestrained. Like there's no glass, there was no ceiling anymore. Right?
Was there a moment? So you started to succeed as a real estate agent. Was there a moment where like something really clicked inside of you that where you sort of became the guy you are today? Can you look back at any defined, let's say, or just a defined period? Say, wow, a couple of things happened, and I said, wow, I got it figured out now. This is what I got to do, and it's more of this. It gets to a certain point where you can say, okay, I got it cracked. Now it's more of the same. Did you ever get there? Or you're still figuring it out?
Still figuring it out.
But I understand.
Still figuring it out.
But I know we always all are. Right?
You knew that. You saw it coming.
Well,
you read my body language, dude. That. Oh my gosh, I was not.
Well, I'm making it easy for you.
Oh my gosh.
My question really is though.
I'm gonna get closed on the straight line by the end of this.
This guy's a character. A nice guy. Listen, my question is this. Yes, of course, we're all always growing and learning. I think if you're not reinventing yourself, you're almost kind of setting yourself to be put out of business in some way, right?
Stagnate and you'll fail.
Right. But I think most successful people, they hit a certain point of like, I guess what you could call maybe critical mass, where you say, you know what, I got a system that's kind of working now, and I can just sort of leverage that and grow it and add a zero onto that. I mean, you must have reached, because you're a successful guy. Was there a certain point where you felt like, you know what, I kind of got some system going here of how I go about finding customers and closing them? And did you reach that point or no? It wasn't really like that for you. Be honest.
I think what it is to me is it's this progression. Over time, when I first did speech and debate in high school, I sucked. And I spent more time playing video games than I did studying my material. And then you start realizing, wow, I'm failing at this. Maybe I should try a little harder.
Okay.
And then you start trying a little harder. And, oh, wow, surprise, surprise. If I put a little bit more work in, more effort comes out. Or I take the time to study some different materials or challenge the way I'm doing things. I've found, whether it was real estate sales or it was the way I, put burgers together at Red Robin, or it's the way I do my YouTube videos, society is really good at telling you if you're doing something wrong. It's very quick to tell you, you're going downhill. And I feel like you go through that many different times in life. It's kind of like, net, you're hoping to progress. You kind of keep going up, but you're still having all these ups and downs. And it's in every time there's been one of those downs in my life where I stopped being an explorer, or I almost quit going to UCLA, or I basically almost dropped out of school, or whether Lauren and I almost broke up, or whether I almost quit real estate sales, or whether I almost quit YouTube. All of those almost moments, those really helped make me think I've got to make a change in myself. People always say, I feel like this is cliche. I hate cliches, but I'm going to bring it up anyway. People go, it's their fault. It's society's fault. And it's a famous thing, right? You point one finger, the three point back at you. And again, I know, cliche, but
cliches are there because they're often true.
Yeah, it was very true to me. So every time I look back and say, well, what can I do differently? And then I tried something different. I either quickly found out that it worked or it didn't. What's actually fascinating is after I read your book, I need to write this. I need to show you this.
Sure.
I don't know how we can demonstrate this.
Sure.
So you have the straight line sales system, which I know we'll talk about later.
Right.
And you talk about going from 0 to 10, continually progressing. Well, what's interesting to me is I did a twist on this, not sales related, life related. So as I was reading it, I had this. What do you call this? This the subconscious murmur.
Certainty scale.
What's that murmuring you say? Like when you're listening to something.
Inner monologue.
Yeah, the inner monologue. Okay, all right. So I felt like I had this inner monologue going. And I go, this isn't sales. That to me, I came up with this new thing that it was just sort of it was life. It was the scale of life.
Yeah.
And I look at it. I go, look, at every point in life, I'm a police explorer. I'm here, and I got my arrow or whatever moving along, and I'm like, okay, what is the best I could be as an explorer? Good, I'm at the best. What's the next level? The next level. Okay, now I'm at Jamba Juice. Now I'm at Red Robin. Now I'm a real estate agent. And what's fascinating to me is at every one of these junctures, I've always said to myself, what can I do to get to the next arrow?
Right.
And sometimes that meant I had to leave some of these behind, but it was kind of like unlocking that code, like you say in your book, get into the next level. But what's fascinating about this is I look at other people's lives because I try to give the best personal finance advice that I can give on YouTube for free as well. And the one of the big things I constantly see on YouTube are these videos that are like, you gotta have a second stream of income. Go Uber. And I look at that, I go, bro, you're Ubering, you're up here in Pluto. You're not getting to the next level in life. I'm not gonna go to my next place in life with Uber experience. Mm-hmm. To me, this was a little bit of a twist, or
Well, no, because I think what you're saying here, and I know I'm going to clarify. You're hovering around something very important here. One thing, as far as the whole example with Uber, right? What you really, I think what you mean, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think what you mean is that if you take on these sort of side jobs that allow you to just get by, it eliminates the pain of having to change. So what's happening is because so I get that job, well, I guess I can pay the bills now. So it eliminates that massive pain when you get to this point, like, oh my God, my life is not working. So what you do is you end up, well, you're never going to get to a great place being an Uber driver. What it does, it eliminates shit, I can't pay my rent right now. So you keep slogging along in the same direction versus if you're going bankrupt, you have no choice but to make a massive drastic change. So that's why, and I always said to the guys at Stratton, when I had these young kids, I said, if you're right now looking at the help wanted section, you have a side job, a second source, I said, you have to cut off your options. You have to make the consequences of failure so dire, so unthinkable that you'll never allow that eventuality to occur. It's cutting off options to make sure that you have no choice. When someone's back is to the wall, they do amazing things. You will set yourself up, right? That's one aspect. The other aspect is, yes, you're right. So the straight line applies to life. But here's the deal. Watch. The secret to the straight line, and for you and for what you teach people financially, is the straight line is about, yep, that's all true. But now watch. The 27-year-old Kevin is a lot wiser than the 18-year-old Kevin. Because success leaves clues and failure leaves clues too. You learn a lot more from your failures than from your successes, but you'll learn from both, right?
I know not to deliver flowers anymore to people.
The idea, we'll get to that later. The idea with the straight line system is, okay, watch. You know where you want to end up. It always starts off with the end point first. Now in a straight line with sales, I want to close a deal. It's about imagining yourself at the end and then looking back saying, what things had to line up to get me to where I want to go. See, right now as a 27-year-old, you could look back at your life at 7 and say, of course I should have quit Red Robin. It wouldn't even be of course I couldn't have. You wouldn't have it. But back then, you probably had to think about it.
A lot.
Because you didn't know yet. No,
it's scary.
But that gets magnified. And now there's 2 ways to do this, right? So these are your boundaries. There's 2 ways. One is you figure this shit out for yourself. Now, as a 27-year-old, you say, yeah, obviously I can't work at Red Robin and get rich or Jamba Juice, right? There's no future. Of course, real estate's 1,000 times better. And if I could sell and close, I'll make, right? But imagine you figure it out on your own. You could take a huge shortcut by knowing that and studying successful people and having systems that are proven to work and use this. So it's about, if I'm here, I look backwards. What do I need to know to work, to make my life work? Essentially, you look backwards. That's what it's really all about. You follow what I'm saying?
I do. I mean, that's something that's so valid. I look, in almost any industry you look, what did the top guy do? what did the top real estate agent in Ventura County do? And how can I emulate that?
There you go.
And
that's exactly my point.
And he wasn't working at Red Robin, you know?
What you would do probably in the case of real estate, you would say, if I was going to go into real estate, what I would do is I'd say, okay, what is the top 3 or 4 people in my market? And also, I want to know people not outside my market or even in complementary industries, and to adopt certain strategies from other industries that haven't been used in my industry yet, and take other ideas, because some people come with great ideas in the computer industry, and yet it would totally apply to the sales industry, I mean to the real estate, and no one's used it yet.
I got to start thinking about doing that for YouTube.
Right? Yeah, well, why not, right? Because the same strategies that you use in one business are used in other businesses in completely different industries, and a lot of the greatest,
applicable.
A lot of the greatest breakthroughs. What someone with Steve Jobs said, "Hey, wait a second, I can make a phone into a computer." He crossed 2 industries together. Interesting. You get it?
Totally.
I could make music accessible. That was a huge breakthrough. But imagine if I combined that with a telephone and a computer and a camera.
It's unbelievable.
So and look what happened. Now Kodak's out of business. Right? The music industry is completely different now. It's not about making money on selling albums or songs. It's about touring now, right? Because the online has just changed the paradigm, right? Getting back to I want to go back to you now, okay? But let's talk about your career as an agent, right? So you're 27 now. How long you been in this? You've been 9 years in real estate? 8 years? 9 years?
Yeah, what is that, 9, 10 years now? I got licensed in 2010.
9 years.
9 years then. Yeah, exactly.
Tell me.
Oh, and I started working with Lauren, because my wife, she also got her real estate license.
That's awesome.
And so she was a year older than me, so I kind of started working with her father-in-law.
All right. So when did you come up with the idea of this Meet Kevin on? You have a YouTube channel with a big following. So I assume the YouTube business brands you in your marketplace as an expert, right? Tell me what exactly it's all about.
Yeah. What's fascinating is, I very much the same as this sort of life continuum, this business continuum exists as well, where I was realizing, and this sounds silly, but in 2012, I'm thinking to myself, okay, I want to grow this business. I want more sales. What can I do? And so you saw that TV commercial I made, the Biff TV commercial.
Let's play it. Yeah, let's play it, Bill.
Oh my God.
The benefit of the fans.
Yeah. That I'll tell you how much I spent on that too, which was stupid, but gosh.
Let's watch this.
That's right. Leave a message.
Meet Biff. He's a lousy real estate agent / level 90 gold elf warrior.
Incoming call. Transferring.
Hello, this is Kevin.
Meet Kevin. He's an awesome real estate agent. When it's time to buy or sell your home, call Kevin, not Biff. MeetKevin.com.
Yeah, so that's really where my...
How'd that commercial do for you?
Surprisingly, it had it was great on my website, and it was great when I met people in person. When I went to a listing presentation, hey, by the way, have you seen my TV commercial? Because back then, it's like, it's not Facebook ads, it's not Instagram ads, YouTube ads. Maybe it was, I don't know. That would have probably been a good time to start. Right. But hey, you can't look back. Then it was like, oh my gosh, got a TV commercial. And so, that I spent $35,000. That was all the money I had. I gotta try to do something to get,
differentiate you in the market.
To differentiate myself. So I went from Kevin Paffrath, my last name, which nobody can pronounce. German is Paffrat, which forget trying to pronounce that one. And I went from that to thinking, how can I simplify? And so I sort of transformed into what I have now, which is Meet Kevin, the no-pressure agent, providing more value. And that's what's plastered on my car. Those are all trademarked. So now I thought, okay, how can I identify, how can I take all the things everybody else is doing? Well, what are all the other people in my industry doing? The good ones provide way more service to their clients. They do more. But they also know how to close the people better because they strike the pain points appropriately. That is, most people, when they go to sell a house, they have all this crap they have to do. They have to get touch-up paint done. They have to get a handyman to fix stuff. They want to put some carpet in or whatever. As a real estate agent, I realized there were very few agents that were actually coordinating that stuff and doing that. So I thought, okay, well, how can I provide more value? I will, go to listing presentations and say to my clients, so you have what problems do you have? Asking all the questions I can figure out, and I'm realizing they have problems getting the property ready for market. They want to sell it as is. They're not sure the value differences. So that's where I came up with the branding of, well, let's provide more value, give the clients more options to solve their problems. And to me, that's really what transformed my business. I start with the TV commercial here, establish that legitimacy. I'm a legitimate professional here. I'm going to answer your phone call. I'm not going to send you to voicemail like Biff, who's playing video games with his underwear draped on the couch and the trust me sign, right? Instead, here's Kevin, who's going to personally help you make money. So when I started realizing sales was about helping people solve their problems and making them realize I could make them money,
Right.
everything changed. There's a breaking point for you. Look at that. You got it out of me.
Tell me about, so what happened now with, how did that lead to you and Grant Cardone having this whole thing where he actually went as far as suing you? So I know, let me just tell you, I'm going to try to frame it for you, okay?
Oh, dear.
It starts off, no, tell me, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm gonna save you time, all right?
Okay.
Starts off where you do a video about Grant and his syndication business, and you actually are somewhat complimentary because you don't know much about it. So you at the big picture look, you say, wow, this seems like a good way for Grant to make a lot of money, and it all looked pretty good. The problem is that as you started digging into the particulars, you started noticing certain things that didn't strike you as legit or didn't add up. And as you started becoming more of an investigative journalist in some respect and finding out what was really going on, and that's when it all turned bad and he sued you to try to get you to stop talking about him, right?
Yeah, that's a good outline. I like that because it's probably less stupid than one part of that story. But yeah, I like that story.
No, I don't want to put words in your mouth. I'm just trying to save time here.
I appreciate it.
So like, was that an accurate, or was there other stuff?
Yeah. So I mean, basically, that's pretty much right on. I start making videos.
If you were saying complimentary things, he probably would
that's
never
how it
sued
started.
you.
That's exactly how it started. It started with, hey, look, here's what this person's doing. At that time, he's the biggest real estate player in the space. And
Define player.
Well, on YouTube. So somebody who's making videos educating people about real estate. And remember, me realizing sales is about making people money, I also realized in order to help people make money, I have to educate them.
Yeah.
So I came from this background of I can help people make money by educating them, by teaching them. And I look at Grant Cardone, who's doing these streams, and in the same videos sometimes, on one hand, I hear him say, banks are terrible, don't trust the banks. And on the other hand, banks are great. They'll help you make sure you're not overpaying for your property. And so I started seeing some of these inconsistencies, and I thought, I don't think he's doing this intentionally. I didn't think at that time he's trying to like rip people off or something like that. I just thought.
Do you think so now?
Well, I guess maybe we'll get to that part.
Okay, let's go.
What I really thought, though, was people needed clarity. Because to me, there's some stupid quote. I'll probably...
Let me stop you for a second. Let me stop. In other words, let me rephrase that question, okay? In other words, I said, do you think he's ripping people off? Let me rephrase it in a more productive way. Do you think that his message is more about he's always circling around to give me your money?
Yeah, that's a good bottom line. I think any...
In other words, rather than investing yourself, all the messages are designed to cut off someone's options to send. You're better off just sending me your money and let me invest for you. Is that what it's all about?
100%. And I think that unfortunately creates some inconsistencies because the way he built his initial wealth isn't what he's preaching now, which I think is I'm not trying to say he's a liar. I'm not trying to say he's a bad person, but when these inconsistencies are on YouTube, I think it's a disservice to people who are watching, who want to emulate, well, I want to be wealthy. I want to, build a company. I want a 10X. But if they don't have a clear roadmap, anyway, that's how I started making the videos. I thought, well, let me try to fill in the blanks. And so, I mean, I may have made like 30 videos about the guy.
and okay, well, no, because listen, I understand. As a young entrepreneur, because what you're doing is you're picking up on his advert. I understand you're piggybacking.
Of course.
You're spending all this money, so he puts himself as a target for someone else because you can get views by using his name. I get it.
Yeah,
right.
Well,
but
of
then
course.
the more you dug into it, it started becoming problematic, right?
Yeah, well, so what...
Well, no, you tell me.
Yeah, I mean... It's a little bit of both. See, obviously, if I make a YouTube video and I title it, How a Real Estate Syndication Works, and I have no following. The
No
odds
one's gonna
are
watch it, right?
Nobody's gonna give an F. People don't even know how to pronounce that word when they see it. They just scroll right by. People see Grant
truth-
Cardone exposed, Cardone Capital exposed. It draws people in. Now, I think that's wrong if there is no underlying value in the video that's consistent to the title.
Right, exactly.
But there is.
Yeah.
You know, here, I'm sharing as much light as I can about the discoveries that I'm making. And to me, that's what I like to do about, you know, anything that I see in business. If I see something that makes sense and that could help people, I'd like to highlight that.
What's the listen? When something I never heard the name Grant Cardone up until about a year and a half ago. Never even heard the guy's
Is that
name.
when I delivered the flowers?
No, I heard his name through a guy named Brad Lee.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Okay,
What, did you hear about their dispute?
I do. Well, no.
Oh, that's where you heard about it.
No. So Bradley calls me up. I like Brad. He's a nice guy.
Yeah.
Brad calls me up and says, I have this platform called Lightspeed. And he goes, there's this guy named Grant Cardone on it. He's making a lot of money. His stuff is not nearly as good as yours. If I put your stuff on my platform, you'd be making $1 billion, right?
Did you go visit his office?
And I visited his office.
So did I.
Okay, so I visited Brad's office.
Yes.
I met Brad, and at the end of the day, I decided not to go with Lightspeed. But I want to thank Brad because he illuminated me this fact that there was this guy who I'd never heard of before last year named Grant Cardone. And when I looked at his stuff, I thought it was awful. I'm like, stuff is terrible. It's outdated. It doesn't make any sense. And when I watched his videos, they were even worse. They made no sense to me, right?
So you found out about Grant Cardone through a sales pitch.
to get on it, using him to attract me to the
Interesting.
platform,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, no, I get that.
So then, very soon after that, I was with Alex Mayer. I don't know if you know Alex Mayer, a friend of mine, another big marketer on, and he mentions Grant Cardone. And all of a sudden, you hear someone's name all of a sudden, right? And he mentions, oh yeah, this guy's doing something really weird. He's taking money from unaccredited investors. As soon as I heard that, I'm like, I promise you, Alex, that is not going to end well. I promise. I don't know what this guy, he's out of his fucking mind, this guy. Because that just, listen, in the best of cases, which I don't think this is, just so you know, where you were doing everything exactly right, there's lawyers out there that just make their living taking these unaccredited investors and doing class actions. And real estate is a volatile, it goes up, it goes down, it doesn't always go up. And when it goes down, all those little people, the moms and dads who gave them their last $5,000 are going to form a class, and once they do, they're going to find out he's taking the private jet fees out of there. And just because you put it in the prospectus on page 222, buried in, is not going to help you much when you have a jury of their peers, not Grant's peers, of their peers. That was my concern before I ever met the guy. So whenever you deal with accredited investors like that, it's dangerous.
Unaccredited, right. Yeah.
Unaccredited, very different story. So that was how I came into it.
Wow, that's fascinating. That's actually an interesting perspective as to a possible danger scenario that I hadn't thought of before. This class action lawsuit potential, because everything's great.
Unaccredited. It always mark my words.
Yeah.
Mark my words. This doesn't end well. It can't end well because it's even if he's I don't know enough to know what he's doing, and I choose not to find out. I don't care what he's doing, but I will tell you that the ultimate red flag is when every time this happens with unaccredited investors, and then you do see some telltale signs: private jet use, all the sort of stuff, opulent lifestyle. I've never seen it really. I mean, I wouldn't say never, but say it's very seldom ends well.
It's fascinating because I've read the prospectuses and all travel fees. He'll put in his videos. Hey, you know what? I got a private jet to get to the deals faster, so we can. It
doesn't help you in a court of law. See, here's the
Interesting.
thing. So while it's disclosed, that doesn't matter when you get sued.
Yeah. Oh no, I learned about lawsuits.
Yeah. So tell me. So that was my. So tell me your experience. So what happened? So you started using Grant's name as clickbait, basically, right? In some level.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
actually giving value as well, right? Genuinely. So why did he sue you though?
Yeah, and what's funny is I never disliked the guy while I was making these videos. I thought, hey, you know what? Here's a lot of great information. This is where it's good. This is where I see it's wrong. Where it's not applicable to people or where there's an inconsistency, right? Like making $10 million from a house that sold in California and all of a sudden turning that $10 million profit into what is now Cardone Capital within 90 days. To me, it's those inconsistencies where...
Explain that.
Yeah. Okay, so on one hand, Grant Cardone says you can't make money on single family. You're going to lose money on the small deal. If it's under 32 units in real estate, you're going to lose money. To me, I look at that and I go,
That's a
wait,
self-serving statement designed so you can't invest with that unless you go to me.
you may as well just give Grant Cardone your money, because how are you going to get into a 32-unit building? You got to have 40% down. Where are you going to get 300 grand to get started? It ain't going to happen unless you start small.
Right.
You got to learn to crawl before you can walk and run, right?
Right.
And so that was frustrating me. I would make those videos, and some of the videos were somewhat sensationalized. And
Give me an example.
Well, there was one particular video where Grant Cardone abducted me and threw me into the back of a van. It's just me wearing a mask. And we're talking about the 10X conferences.
Oh, you made this up, Bob.
Oh, yeah, I made this up. And about how yeah, he was concerned for a moment. I got him. Storytelling. So threw me in the back of the van and
Well, Grant is a Scientologist, right?
yeah, so I don't know about that part. I
No,
stay
I
out
thought
of the
they- I thought
religious
maybe
part.
I thought they grabbed you the Scientologist.
Oh, you're okay.
That's what I was
okay,
worried. I was
okay,
like,
sorry.
what, the
This is a
Scientologist guy?
joke. It was a
All right.
joke. I was
Okay,
wearing a
fine.
mask.
I was worried for a second.
Yeah.
Thank God.
But anyway, it was basically me talking about, hey, why is it that on one hand you say you're inviting firemen and police people, or whatever military folks for free to the 10X event, but realistically, come on, we all know you're trying to fill up the stadium so you can sell to them because that's where the profit is. And so I would make videos like that. I mean, that was sensationalized, but it got a little bit. The problem is, then I started hanging out because I started having some success on YouTube. I started hanging out with people that would do prank videos on YouTube. I got this brilliant idea that, you know what? Grant Cardone doesn't have his office decorated as much as he needs to have it decorated. It's Christmas time, and there just isn't enough Christmas cheer. And, you hear some things, people Instagram DM me about the difficulties of selling in a certain environment or whatever. And I'm like, we need some holiday cheer. So I decide I am going to, at the time, I think he said he had 120 employees or something like that. I'm going to deliver each of his employees 2 full-sized poinsettia flowers with a U-Haul the day before Christmas Eve. We deliver flowers with 15 people and cameras dressed as elves and Santa Claus. And we come in with wheelbarrows filled with poinsettia flowers. And we coordinated at the same time having our truck full of poinsettia flowers drive up to his office. And so we just walk in the front door. The door's unlocked. We just walk in the front door. And we started passing out the flowers. And the office staff, at first, they're like, oh my gosh, there are like 15 people coming in. And then one person in our group started singing. The office started clapping and cheering. Everybody was really happy.
I would think they would be.
Yeah, they're like, "What? This is cool."
So what was the problem?
Well, so then I look over my shoulder. There's Grant Cardone's Johnny the camera guy taking one of my wheelbarrows, rolling it to the dumpster,
Okay.
and takes the flowers and throws them in the dumpster.
Okay.
And it pissed me off.
Okay,
And
so?
this is where pranks are a slippery slope, okay? This is why you don't do pranks.
I don't agree with that, but keep going. I think you do pranks, but you have to be a bit more, you have the lines that you don't want to cross. Keep going. What happens now?
I went back in.
Again.
Yeah. So there's the security
Why?
guys
Saying what?
Well, so security guy's at the front door, and I see the guy throwing the flowers away. I run towards him. Then I see him throwing those away, and then I'm like, well, let me go ask Jared why they're throwing the flowers away. And the front door's over here. I'm over here by the dumpster. I run back. I grab a door. It's locked. It's some real estate office. Go grab another door. Flings right open. I'm in the middle of their office. I run inside, run down the hallway. I go, why are you guys throwing our flowers away? So I'm looking for Jared. And I get to the sales room, and I'm like, all right, whatever. This isn't going anywhere. So let's just call it. So I get to the back. All the people there, whatever. They had just finished their morning meetings, I guess. So they're standing around, getting ready for the day. And they see me come in dressed as an elf. And I'm like, hey, guys, I just wanted to let you know we have poinsettia flowers outside that we've delivered. And I did say this very calmly, that we have poinsettias that we delivered for everybody. It's a Merry Christmas, and it's a thank you. We wanted to 10X your Christmas. The flowers are outside. Boom! Tackled by the security guy. Throw my camera goes flying. Jared comes, grabs the camera, reformats my SD card. I'm like, flying, and it's getting tackled from behind. Then three other like big dudes, and I'm not a big guy. Three other big dudes come like grab me, and they're just like wrestling. And I'm like, okay, you got me. Like it's cool. They're just grabbing me, and they sit me down to the front. That's it. We're calling the cops.
Did you sue them?
Huh?
Did you sue them for
I
that?
could.
You could have sued them.
Yeah, I went to the doctor.
Of course
after.
you could have sued them.
I probably still could. I went to the doctor afterwards, and they I don't know how they do it, like an X-ray or something on my neck, but there's like some stupid spasm or something I have now from that quick like whip back, and I still feel it like slightly. I feel it now.
Okay, so that was a problem right there. Did it go that? Then he ultimately sued you, right?
Yeah. So how that happened was, in my opinion, hilarious. So I actually exchanged I sent him a DM on this was the 22nd, I think this happened. I sent him a DM on the 26th, and I said, hey, I'm sorry, a prank or whatever, like, won't happen again. He actually replied and said, take all the videos down in my name and talk to me in a year or something like that. And I'm like, I replied to him, I apologize, and I go, hey, like, there's some that compliment you. I responded to him, I said, there are some that compliment you. Do you want me to leave those up? Or should I take all of them? Like, what do you want? And I don't think there's one of two things that happened. He either didn't like that I talked back to him, which, sorry, that's what I do. Okay, that's just what I do. My parents know that. My wife knows that. Sorry, maybe that's part of the problem. But anyway, he replies and says, well, no, he blocks me. At that point, he blocks me, so I can't talk to him anymore on Instagram. A week later, I get a text message. Hey, this is Deputy whatever with Santa Barbara Sheriff County. I have some papers for you, and I'm like, no way. So I am filming a YouTube video, New Construction Homes Exposed. So if anybody wanted, we could look that video up, or people could themselves. That was right before I filmed that video. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? I have my laptop in my car. I go to Miami Clerk of Courts because I just had this feeling. Miami Clerk of Courts, civil case law. You type in PAFRATH. Here it is. Domestic violence court, stalking. Now he's suing me for stalking him. Yet the funny thing is, he wasn't even there.
Stalking.
Stalking, by the way, requires 2 incidences of harassment. 2 incidences of in-person harassment where somebody is fearful for their health and safety, that they're going to get hurt by somebody. That's how you could get a stalking injunction. So now I have an injunction, which is...
The fear is that you're saying things about what he's doing is illegitimate. That's his fear.
So now, in their lawsuit, they're demanding a restraining order that I can't make videos about them anymore, and that I need to stay away from them.
Oh, my God.
The judge nixed the part about the videos, but left like, okay, well, we need to figure this out. Like, what's going on here?
Temporary.
Temporary restraining order.
And then it was vacated.
I get it. Of course. The deposition with Grant Cardone starts with my attorney asking him about 10X and not describing what 10X is. They just had their 10X conference in Miami. And this deposition, by the way, public record. Anybody can look this up. It's publicly posted. A Miami civil court case, PAFRATH. Look up the closed stalking case. Scroll to the bottom. Look up the deposition. It's all there. All the transcript of everything Grant says. So I was having trouble describing it, which I'm like, Grant. I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, Grant, you should not have trouble explaining this. I think
the guy's a moron.
At some point in life, he inspired me because at first it's like yes, 10X, like let's sell. I still want to believe. Like, come on, Grant. Like, you can do better than this, right? My attorney says, so Grant, you allege that my client accosted you at this driven event in California in September of 2018. When did you meet Kevin at this event? And he goes, I can't remember. And he goes, well, Kevin says he met you. Grant Cardone says, well, no, I've never met Kevin. And he goes, yeah. My attorney says, yeah, because we see this Instagram post here of you saying, I've never met Kevin. I'm not suing the guy. So my attorney calls him out on it. What do you mean you've never met Kevin before? You met him at Driven. Grant goes, well, the way I define meeting somebody is when you shake somebody's hand.
It's like no interest is interest?
No interest is interest. Gets worse because then my attorney shoots back and goes, would you be surprised if I showed you a video of Kevin at the Driven event shaking your hand? Oh, I don't remember that. I don't remember that. That's where it gets blurry. I shake a lot of people's hands. I don't remember that. I'm sitting there like, oh my gosh, like.
But I thought he said you accosted him. At the
Right,
event.
right. So the lawsuit says I accosted him, and then so my attorney says, so at what point did Kevin accost you? He goes, well, he was stressing me out. He was stressing me out. His presence was stressing me out. And the attorney goes, really? Because what if I showed you later in that day? Would you be surprised if you saw another video where later in that day you shake Kevin's hand again? And at the end of talking to Kevin about, hey, you shouldn't be making videos about people, but I get it. Everybody's trying to get their piece. But hey, you know what? Everybody just does their own thing. And hey, you know what? You do you kind of thing. And it shakes my hand and says, hey, you know what? Be great. That's the video. And I have this video. I can show this video. So I have this video. And Grant Cardone. So it's all of a sudden, it's like, wait, how do we? He didn't meet me, but then he shakes my hand.
All right. So what did he say to that?
Constantly, I don't know. I meet a lot of people. I can't remember this. You have to talk to my security people about that. Attorney says, so Grant, you said, the way they wrote the lawsuit, Kevin stormed our office. I knew it was him because I recognized him. I was there. And the attorney's like, but you weren't there. The CCTV footage shows you weren't there. Kevin's footage shows you weren't there. So what you're saying is your first case for stalking is Kevin accosted you at Driven and that you never met him, yet here's video of him shaking your hand and you saying, be great. Then the second case for stalking, which remember, we need 2 cases to have a stalking case. The second case is Kevin invaded my office and he's stalking me. I'm there. And he's not even there, which is proven on video. So now all of a sudden, I think he realizes he has a pretty weak case and the deposition ends. It's hilarious. Ends. I'm sitting in a Target listening to this on the phone, just sort of on mute. And it transitions into my attorney saying something to the effect of, this isn't lining up. Like, how do you have a stalking case? You know what, Joe? You're a fucking scumbag. You're a fucking piece of shit. I'm done. Ends the deposition like that. Oh my God.
So what happened?
Yeah, so what happens is I still have to keep paying my attorneys for a bullshit lawsuit.
Right, but what happened, though? Eventually it was dropped.
Go to court. But what's funny is I live in California. So Grant Cardone has an in-house attorney. An in-house attorney.
Right, but did he drop the...
No, he didn't. Well, okay. So his attorney's filing out his paperwork. We go to court. Grant Cardone is supposed to be somewhere in like Mexico or whatever. Posts pictures on Instagram, on his stories. Hey guys, I got an issue in Florida I got to take care of. I got to leave my family. Shows his children, how he's leaving his family to go deal with this legal issue in Florida. Fabricates this whole thing of him going to the airport. Elena posts stories. Bye, Granty. Pointing his camera at like a plane flying by. Go to court. His attorney's there. Yeah, Grant's plane is having problems. He wasn't able to take off. We're going to need to recess. We're going to need more time for Grant to get here. He never left. He never left to come to this because he knew he was screwed.
Right.
So this, on my way to court, we find out, and we did our research as fast as we could, but we find out that someone, probably from Grant Cardone's office, but someone, because our initial police report, everything's dropped about this prank, everything's dry, everything's good. Somebody decided to barge into the district attorney's office. This is what I hear from now my criminal attorney, who spoke with the district attorney. The district attorney says, can't say what happened, but basically somebody came in here, shaking their fist, pounding on the desk, going, somebody needs to, we want to press charges against Kevin. So now, in addition to suing me civilly, his company and him press criminal trespass charges against me. And the argument is, well, you shouldn't have, delivered flowers and come back in.
Well, they can't press charges. They have to, the district attorney has to decide to press charges.
They're trying to go for burglary charges, by the way, which is a felony because...
Is this still going on?
Not really. I'll cap that off. The burglary charges they allege because they say I ran up to the doors and I broke the doors to break into their office. Meanwhile, there's video of me walking up to the door. Like it's hilarious how.
So what happened with the district attorney? What did he do?
Yeah. So they file criminal charges for criminal trespassing.
The district
attorney does, and I'll align this chronologically. I'm in Florida. We go to court. The Grant Cardone's attorney says, "Well, we just found out about these criminal charges. We want to delay the stalking lawsuit." And so they said, we need to do more research. Kevin's now a criminal. We want to research this more. We want to delay this. Meanwhile, they get me to fly out to Florida for this hearing. And they're basically just trying to incur costs to get me to stop making videos and get me to keep coming back to Florida to fight this crap. So anyway, and this is all public too, the transcripts of what happened in court. But the judge looks and goes, what you're saying is somebody pressed criminal charges, and now you want to delay this civil case, but they're about the same thing. Kevin delivered flowers, and you're suing him for stalking, and now you're saying because of the same incident, somebody pressed charges, or the district attorney pressed charges against him for criminal trespassing. You want to delay the lawsuit, and at the same time, you're saying Grant Cardone's not here because his plane can't take off and his plane's having trouble. Oh, they're trying to buy time, whatever they're trying to do, incur me more costs or whatever. Their attorney tries to make this argument that, well, we need to do, more research. There are more people involved in this. We pull out the original police report and go, you had all the same information you have now. The judge denies their claim or their motion to extend the lawsuit. At the same time the judge denies their claim, the judge says, all right, let's get into the case. They had already gone through the deposition where they realized, and we gave them all our footage, that they had no case. They go, oh, well, in that case, we're just going to go ahead and dismiss the lawsuit.
Yeah, of course.
That cost me $40,000.
Right. So I knew where this was going. Of course they would dismiss. But now, what about the criminal case?
So there are two options.
What kind of district attorney is this? Is he like, he's on the take, the guy? He's obviously
the
on the
district
take.
attorney knows this is a total BS prank. The district attorney says we are not pressing felony burglary charges. That's totally unreasonable. If anything, there's an inkling that this could be maybe a criminal trespassing case. And the district attorney says, but do we want to spend the time and money to prosecute this? So they say, if you stay away from Grant Cardone for 6 months, we'll drop the charges.
Stay away physically or from making videos?
Oh, sorry, it's from his office. No, stay away physically. They won't take away my right to free speech.
Let me tell you something.
Yeah.
You've been had, buddy. You just have no understanding of the justice system. The first thing I would do is I would file a fucking lawsuit for them tackling me and hurting me, and you still have pain, you said?
A little bit. I don't want to sound like that person that's like, oh, I got the brace around my neck.
Whatever.
I don't want to.
But they're playing hardball with you, okay? No, I wouldn't tell you to do anything. If you don't have pain, you don't have pain. Before you said you still had pain.
No, it's still true.
Right. Well, what they're doing is they're playing with you. I'm an expert at legal matters, as you can imagine. They're playing a game with you, all right? So you should be playing a legal game, the same legal game. They're playing legal games with you. You need to play legal games back. They're going to sue you, then you sue them.
That's a good point.
Why don't you counter-sue them?
Then, my attorney in Florida said we could countersue for...
Yeah, you could.
Well, not just, obviously, the tackling being one
No,
thing.
he goes for that, for costs, for court costs and the whole thing.
For the actual stalking, because it's a bullshit case.
Yeah. Anyway, whatever. Enough of that. Okay, let's go back now. Let's go back.
Yeah, so there's...
I didn't realize it was that. I had no idea it was that, like a 45-minute story.
Sorry.
No, it's fine, though. I just didn't realize. I just thought you had a minor civil lawsuit with the guy. It's insane. But it sounds like something that I know exactly what's going on.
What's so frustrating, and it relates back to the sales podcast and the sales training, is why is it that in every scenario, at every turn, information gets twisted and manipulated to always go back to invest in Cardone Capital? And that's where I make these videos, not because I'm trying to destroy Cardone Capital or Grant Cardone. I make my videos to show both sides, all sides of the story. And my vision is, well, golly, if Grant adopted and said, wow, you know what, Kevin's right. If people can build wealth investing in the smaller deals, the small 30-year fixed rate loans, getting deals below market value, if people can build wealth that way through 4-unit buildings, whatever, single families, if people can build wealth through this way, they will, guess what? Become accredited investors.
My
that they
advice
can
to
invest
you,
with him.
you know, my advice is, I would, if you want to do videos about, you do videos with the guy.
Hmm?
He'll implode all on his own. He doesn't need you to implode, okay? He'll implode with the next downturn in real estate.
Jeez.
Okay, no, because and by the way, whether he's doing, he could be doing everything right. I don't know. I do not know. You know a lot more than me. What I will tell you is that these things, I've never seen them end well like this with these sort of low income people putting their life savings in. It's just very difficult that when people lose money, because there are lawyers out there, unscrupulous lawyers, that will go out there and solicit people and get them to complain. And well, I think you need like 2 people now. I think maybe 2 or 3 at the most to form a class. Wow. And then once you have a class action certified, then they send letters out to every single person who's ever invested, who's disgruntled, and this is why. And I'm not even saying Grant's doing anything wrong. This is why it's just dangerous to deal with unaccredited investors, right?
Well, you know what's fascinating?
If I were you, I'd focus on your own business. But if you need to make videos, that's fine. You make good videos. I like your videos.
Thank you for that. Yeah, it's fascinating because a lot of people think, oh my gosh, well, I'll just have an LLC and then I'm good. You know, I don't have liability. I have limited liability. The funny thing about America is everybody can sue everybody. And there's something called the American rule. You get sued, and somehow you can prove it's not frivolous, that there was even the slightest possible claim. Everybody has to pay their own frickin' attorney's costs.
Yeah, well, listen, the thing is that an LLC is okay until there's fraud involved.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
And then once there's fraud involved, and it pierces the veil, and then you're screwed. Right. Anyway, let's talk about the deconstruction that you did.
Yeah.
Right. So first of all, what was it that shocked you so much about that video?
100 people sending me Instagram messages going, Jordan just destroyed Grant Cardone. You need to make a video. See, I've almost gotten this reputation where people are like, Kevin, there's some drama. You got to make a video.
So is that what happened? You were getting Instagram videos?
Yes. People texted me. They texted me. They're like, Kevin, have you seen this video?
What do you think? What do you think is wrong with him? Like, is there something? Does he have a screw loose? I wonder. Why couldn't he answer the most basic questions about sales, business, what was it why can't he answer the simple? I mean, I was giving him softball questions, Kevin.
Yeah.
I wasn't trying to trap the guy. I finally said it's not a trick question to the guy, right? And he has an inability. He seems to have no understanding of selling at all. Like, I don't get it.
It's something that's been very hard for me to put my finger on because I want to understand myself so that, I always look at if other people make mistakes, I know I could learn from them. Like you had said, that straight line of life. Yeah. What are successful people doing? What can I do? Well, to me, let's look at, unfortunately in this case, what not to do.
Right.
And to me, you know what it is? It was more of a disappointment. It was, here's somebody that for a time I had looked up to. I had thought, I want to 10x my life. I want to, you know what? Instead of just doing real estate sales, I'm going to open up a construction company, like my dad did. I'm going to have 12 employees and have a construction company because then I could do construction work for my real estate clients and provide more value. And so all of this was 10x. Yeah, great, excitement, like grow, advertise, grow, expand, grow. That interview, obviously some other things happened in between.
Right, no, I get it.
But that interview took a lot of spark away. It took a lot of that excitement away where I'm like, Grant, why? It would have been so easy. I mean, from an outsider looking in, thinking, I could talk to you about sales all day long.
Right.
And I don't know sales as well as you do. I mean, I know real estate sales, but, I've trademarked the no pressure agent to help sort of brand the way that I sell.
Right.
But this was supposed to be, your interview with Grant was supposed to be the meeting of the sales gurus.
Right.
And it was.
What was the most shocking thing that he said in that video to you?
I got fish. That's
pretty
somebody's
shocking.
Got to meme that, okay?
That was, by the way, pretty shocking.
No,
I sold fish, by the way.
You did too?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh!
But that's why I filled in his rap pretty quickly. I'm like, I got some extra. I'll give you a really good deal. Like he couldn't.
That's right, because you filled it in.
I was like,
you added on. Like, well, what was it? Like, did you have a discount today? Is it like half
it was
off
the most,
now?
It was
right?
the stupidest. When he said that to me, I was like, this guy's a fraud. I'm like, this guy's because
that was early on.
I was like, what the fuck? I was like, this guy's a total fraud because anybody would even the most, lowest level salesperson wouldn't just say, I got fish. Anyone would say, hey, I got a really good deal today. I got some extra. If you can buy it right now, I'll give you anybody would say that. So I was just shocked by that.
I went into this thinking, we're going to see how two salespeople... Different styles. How can you develop rapport in different ways?
Exactly.
How can you... Okay, Grant, my favorite part, and this was the most damning to me, was really... When do you, and you probably circled back to this 7 times during the process, when do you stop trying to sell something to somebody that has no freaking interest? And the response is, well, no interest is a level of interest. But you're selling fish, Grant. You say you're selling fish. You don't have an insurance policy in your pocket. And quite frankly, I mean, you know what? If he had an interesting argument here where he said, oh, you don't want fish? No problem. Hey, I got this in this sleeve. Hey, I got this for you. And there was an argument to be had there. I would have been interested in seeing it. But it never came.
I want to show you something I got last night. On let me say, I gotta find it where there's no the fish thing. Hold on a second.
I hope it's a meme.
It's a meme. It's a meme. It's a meme.
You guys have seen this?
Look, I just got this one. Check this out.
Oh no!
It's SpongeBob SquarePants. I think it's SpongeBob SquarePants. If they're paying me $0, then they're still paying me, right? At Grant Cardone. No, because I hang with people, they're certain. Why? It's a Grant Cardone meme about no, and you know what it's from? It's from Bradley.
No! Oh my gosh! Because I know there was a lot of drama between them. I hear them like cross-recruiting and stuff.
We'll insert this so you guys can see it.
Gosh.
I'm still getting these memes from Brad. It was like the gift that keeps on giving, and I swear on my children's eyes that I had no intention of trying to get into a confrontation.
I believe you.
I was trying to just have this really awesome thing. I thought maybe I'd learned something from the guy, and it was just nonsense. So that was one thing.
You kept giving him outs.
So
what was the opportunity?
To me, I'll tell you the worst thing he said. When it came up on the podcast where I was having trouble following a logical train of thought with him because he couldn't follow a logical train. I thought he was on drugs. I really did, because he was rambling and he was saying things that it got nonsensical after a while, right? So then he says, first he says, no tricks, there's no tricks. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm so strategy, right? And then he goes, I charge one person $100 and I charge someone else $80,000 for the same product. He goes, that's the trick people should learn. So I'm like, wait a second. So I stopped him because it was such a, first of all, that's not only is it unethical, but it's probably illegal, by the way. If it's a regulated situation, okay? But that being said, I tried to give him that. I'm like, well, you don't mean that. I was like,
they're different, right?
I'm like, they're different. I'm trying to save the guy from himself.
Yeah.
No, I'm the same fucking brother. I'm like, so when he said that, I was like, this guy is just like, has no shame. I mean, it's like, I couldn't believe that. Like, that's something, and interestingly enough, is that some of the things he says, there's some grain of truth to that. Because yes, you charge people, you can charge one person X and one person Y within a small margin. And also with other benefits attached to it, to the core product, right? But it was saying it was like a bragging thing about I can just rip people's eyeballs out because they're stupid. Someone owns what he was saying is if I sell to business owners, I charge them 100 times more than when I charge an individual because business owners have more money and why not? That was his attitude, right?
That's exactly what it was. And it's so interesting because it could have been, what I really think, and it's kind of coming to me right here, I really wonder if he went in to this podcast, like you said, he walked in on his phone doing his syndication deal or whatever. I wonder if he came in just so jazzed on his own world and how he flew here on his jet and how great everything in his life is to, you know what, I'm here, Jordan, you're here, whatever you say, I don't believe it. I feel like there was really this agenda to try to discredit you. That there was this, you know what, anything you say, I'm going to say the opposite.
Right.
That's what it felt like. And it's unfortunate because these are the times where I'm like, Grant, you need somebody. Like, I'm not saying I'm open for a job from Grant Cardone, but I say he needs somebody in his ear going, here's your strategy. If you want to make more money, Grant, this is your strategy. But I think in some sense, a little bit of ego has gotten in the way. And I don't want to. I don't want to
Guy's
say
a fucking egomaniac. The guy, listen, the guy is
maybe I'm trying to be modest. Okay.
Let me tell you how stupid he is. I'm going to tell you flat out, and I hope you're watching this, Grant. You know, he actually posted this on his own site.
No.
And then took it down after 5 hours after he got 8,000 negative comments. He's that delusional about himself. All right. I mean, then he put out oh my God, he put out a reaction video trying to explain himself.
Yes, I reacted
which you
to that too.
destroyed that one too. I mean, you know what? The guys, let me tell you the lesson. There's a lesson here, okay? Number one, okay, is that you don't get far in life by being an asshole. He came in here to be an asshole. He treated my staff like shit. He was rude to people.
On camera.
Everything. Just was rude. He walked in here with just a... I mean, I've never seen any... I have built many friends who were billionaires, okay? And they're the most respectful, nicest. They make it a point to be respectful because when you're that wealthy and you're the real deal, you know, you don't want people... Wherever I go, I am, like people go, I am the nice... I make it a point to be over respectful. Someone that comes in like that, I was like, what is... He's like on the phone... His phone was like on during the podcast. It was the rudest thing I've ever seen that he kept his phone on as he's making a moron of himself. His phone is on. So I just think, honestly, here's what I think happened. I think it's a guy who, A, got lucky in the real estate market and he's riding a wave. And because I don't think he knows what he's talking about. This guy strikes me as being a half-wit. And I'm going to say it flat out because I've asked so many people questions like that and never had anybody. They were the most basic questions. They weren't like, let me give you some complex formula. I was like, so when is there is no sweet spot. There's no strategy. What's the next? Oh, you haven't seen, how about this one? He says to me, oh, so you know about, well, you clicked on my website then, right? I'm like, no, Grant, I'm in your algorithm. This Facebook will show me whether I ever click. This comment made that, well, you must have clicked on my ads if they advertise to you. Now, you know that's not how Facebook works. I have interests. My interests are sales, entrepreneurship. I see every single Grant Cardone ad until I mute him finally. I see every single Gary Vaynerchuk till I mute. And I'm not saying I like Gary. I'm saying I see all these people's ads, every Tony ad, every Ty Lopez, because that's my. So him to say, oh, well, you must have. And I didn't. I said I'm not going to call him out in that because I wasn't there to hurt the guy, and I invited him into my home. But now that he's not in my home, I'll tell you what I'm saying. This guy's a stone cold idiot. I mean, he's sitting there saying things that are just flat out lies. If you saw my ad, you must have clicked on my site. You know that's not how Facebook works. They show you what they think you're interested in, whether you click on it or not, until you say, stop showing it to me because it's driving me crazy. And I've done that with Grant.
Or you click on it and then they give you more.
I did it on Instagram. I just had to do it on Instagram. All of a sudden, after this whole debacle with Grant, my Instagram started filling up with his shit. Because now they're linking me to Grant Cardone, so they're showing me his ads. He's advertising like crazy right now, trying to make a comeback from all this stuff. Because I think it genuinely hurt his business, for sure.
I think that, too. I think that's honestly probably his biggest frustration in life right now is that I think he rode an initial sales career of coaching because he said it in your podcast.
He didn't even know. He was teaching something he didn't know about, he said.
He said that. So took advantage of that income to start buying some of his own real estate, the house. Exactly. And then the last, 8 years has ridden a syndication wave of profits in real estate. Every real estate syndication has doubled or tripled their money. It's not unique. And so it was almost like a no-lose proposition to invest in real estate in 2011, right? Pretty much, okay? It's not...
Yes, you can throw a dart.
Exactly, you can throw a dart blindly and make a lot of money in 2011-12 and ride that. And I think that's what he's ridden. But unfortunately now, at the same time as we're having these economic uncertainties, he's also getting significantly more criticism. So now combine economic uncertainties with significant criticism, from me and others over the last year and a half, to an explosive amount of criticism after your interview with him and your guidance on sales and comparison to, look, here's how we do it in straight line. Let's compare that to Grant's and how different it is. I do strongly believe that has dramatically, all of these things, economics, the tax and things, have affected his business. Now he has to either reinvent himself, either adapt, which honestly adapting would be the smartest thing. If he came out, I've messed up, let's clear the air here, let's talk about small deals, let's show people how they can do straight line or whatever. That would be good for him, But I think his ego's going to block him from doing that.
He's got a here's my opinion on the whole thing, all right? You heard it from here first, Mario, okay? I have no idea what he's doing with his real estate. I just know that those syndications to unaccredited investors, mark my words, a class action suit is in the...
You got some jade on that, huh?
Nothing to do with Grant.
No, I know. Just in general, you're jaded on it.
I know. I've been around the block, buddy, okay? A million times, all right? You think this is the first person to do what he's done?
Do you want to invest in Meet Kevin Capital?
No, there was a company, I'll tell you, it was a company back in the day, Integrated Resources back in the 80s when you were still, before you were born probably, okay? And same sort of things, a little different, okay? And I'm not saying he's like Integrated, but it's those types of deals. When someone is telltale signs, unaccredited investors, conflicting statements people make when all of a sudden, all it's going to do is it's food for fodder for a class action lawyer. That's what it is. So whether or not he's breaking the law, I don't know his business model. I don't. You know it a lot better than me. But I know that I've never seen that sustain itself, because when people lose money, they're going to look to point the finger of blame somewhere. And whether he did things right or wrong, the lawyers have a way of, as you saw in your own case, look what lawyers did. You walk in as an elf. Next thing you know, you have someone trying to say you broke the law criminally. What a joke, right? The point is, lawyers can say whatever they want to say. Anyway, enough for Grant Cardone, right? I mean, I have to say, Grant, thank you. You were the gift that keeps on giving for me, because, dude, I had nothing but the best intentions when you came here. I don't know. You got to seriously. Oh, he said my people do drugs here. That's what I see. My employees that comment about my. So he starts off saying he's a drug addict. No, he said he's an ex-drug addict. Wait, so you're a better ex-drug addict than me? Like, he started off. He said he was in recovery too. Right. So we're both in recovery, and yet my people are all doing drugs.
It's sad. I mean, that's when you.
That's what is rude to my people. That's why I was, and I still was respectful to them.
That's when you know, though, that somebody really has lost every.
He's lost the plot.
He's lost the plot. Either, even though his back wasn't against the corner with all the openings you gave him,
dude,
he was acting as if he was.
Exactly.
And
there's something wrong with this. There's something. Right, you can't. Something wrong with that.
You don't just attack somebody like that, especially in what's supposed to be a professional setting. You know, to come out with that argument that well, you guys might be doing drugs or something.
So tell me, I said. So tell me what 10X is about. I was trying to help him promote his 10X. I said, let me throw the guy a bone and let him tell everyone so people could buy tickets to his 10. I'm a nice guy.
Yeah.
And he took it as an affront. I'm like, because I didn't attend it. It's like, anyway, let's talk about you. So listen, you're successful now, and that's awesome, right? Tell me about what your plans are for the next 3 to 5 years. Where are you going with this? So you used Grant's name, and I would commend you. Could use Grant's. People use my name all the time. Yeah. There's a guy named Peng Jun out there. I don't even know the guy.
Okay.
Nobody advertised. He used my name. Good for him. He said nice things. People say bad things about it. They say nice things. I don't care what people say. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with using someone's name to get clicks. You did that. I commend you for that, right? But where are you going now? What's your future?
Yet it's fascinating because I do look back at the last 2 years of how things have evolved from making zero money from YouTube to making more money faster on YouTube. There's no secret to that. When YouTube ad revenue alone pays me $1,000 per day, and I post just a video a day. That's insane. I have to close 50 real estate sales to do that. And to me, I go, I need to just go into a more expensive market, and that's where I've been struggling.
Wait, stop.
Yeah.
That didn't add up. You said if you get 1,000 a day, that's 30,000 a month. But one real estate transaction should make you $5 or $6 grand. No, what price properties you sell?
Yeah. So here's the way I look at it.
Show me.
$365,000 a year is $1,000 a day from YouTube.
Right.
The costs of me making YouTube videos, I've already bought my equipment.
I get it.
Next to zero.
All right.
Real estate sales, every transaction, I would say was about worth $10,000 gross.
Okay, how much now?
I'm not talking taxes here. I'm going now to maybe $7,500 down. I sell 50 of these. I'm about par with YouTube. So that's because I sat down. I go, okay. So if I make $500,000 in real estate sales,
that'd be one a week. About
one a week. That's right.
I thought you said what 30.
If I miss, I'm so sorry if I misspoke.
Maybe I misheard you. I just
Oh, okay. Maybe you heard 50 a month. Maybe
okay, yeah, I think whatever. It's fine.
About one a week.
Fine.
Which $500,000 commission
But you
income.
have expenses on your
Well,
business.
then I need a transaction coordinator. I can't handle that all myself. I need somebody who can always answer the phone. I need somebody that can show up at the termite inspection. So on and so forth. And so now all of a sudden, and then there are concessions that come up with clients. There are expenses.
Can I give you advice?
Yeah.
You should be selling higher priced homes. You're a very charismatic guy. Especially you're a young guy. If you're only making that much money on
$7,500 on a house, yeah.
I think you should be selling higher priced homes. I think you should be going into an area. You're young enough right now. I wouldn't stop what you were doing.
No, yeah.
But I would actually I would simultaneously build a separate division in your company where you're actually targeting much bigger homes and getting bigger commissions. And then you'll see that over a period of 2 or 3 years, you'll end up transitioning into that and probably delegate out the lower price homes so you train.
It's true. That there is that element that I've thought I need to, I'm going to borrow this, but 10x my business and have this team. But then at the same time, I've had this conflicting life balance issue where I've never been in balance in life. I always 5 hours of sleep a night, grind to make as much money as possible. Now, input a 4-year-old and 18-month-old. And when I come out of the office stressed, I come home stressed, and I see them look, Daddy, you want to play? Sorry, kid, I got to go to a listing presentation again. The disappointment in their face, it's hard. And I'm not like, I wish I could spend much more time with them. So much of me now looks at how can I make, and again, I'm still sleeping like 5-hour nights. How can I make the most money with the least amount of time?
Of course.
And I hate to say it because I guarantee you I was one of those people that was so cynical that always said, don't buy online courses. Online courses are a scam. People selling you stuff on the internet, those that can't teach. I will tell you, I can make much more money helping people at scale than sitting individually with my customers showing them how to do it. I can make one person $100,000 buying a deal below market value. Their net worth goes from $5,000 to $105,000, like that, buying what I call wedge deals in real estate. Or
explain what a wedge deal is.
Yes, okay. So a wedge deal, there are 3 types. I'm just going to go with the most common. There's a multifamily type, there's a different type, and then there's a single-family house. The most common is a single-family house. A wedge deal is where somebody has a $450,000 house. I'll use a real example. I bought 3 wedge deals this year.
Okay.
This is one of those examples. $450,000 property hits the market. The client says, Kevin, I need to sell it either as is, or can we do some work to it and fix it up? I look at this because this is what I do day in, day out. If you spent $50,000 cleaning up this house, now you're into it for essentially $500,000. It would be worth $6,000. The reason for that is because 89% of buyers in the single-family space are unsophisticated home buyers that are not investors. They see stinky carpet, they get scared.
They don't realize there's $100, $200 you can replace. Yeah.
I see stinky carpet, nasty paint, and all the dual-pane windows and the new roof and the furnace.
You see
I see $100,000 of profit.
Yeah.
I can now teach that at scale and show people in-person events on the course. And I do this regularly too. I'm not just
so is that a wedge? You call that a wedge deal?
That is a wedge deal. The reason it's a wedge deal is because it's a $450,000 as-is price. You buy it for $450,000. You put $50,000 into it. Now market value is $6,000. Your wedge, your net worth goes up by that extra $100,000. You should get into these too, because guess what happens? You own this property. You rent it out. You keep it. When you want to sell it, you 1031 exchange it. You're telling the government, hey, I'll catch you later on the taxes. I won't pay you taxes. Nobody likes to pay the government taxes. I'll catch you later on the taxes. I'll catch you later. You do this your whole life. You buy these wedge deals below market value. Your net worth instantly boosts. You can borrow money against that net worth if you want. So you have endless opportunities. You could sell if you want. You 1031 exchange into bigger deals. And guess what happens? You're 80 years old. You got $10 million worth of net worth. $9.5 million of that would be taxed at 20% or whatever if you sold it all. But now you're 80, 90 years old. You get hit by a bus, and the government says, most people think, well, now it's time for you to pay up your $2 or $3 million in capital gains taxes. But instead, the government comes around with a big eraser and says, sorry, you died. Let's just erase all that tax liability, called stepped up tax basis. So here is a way to buy real estate below market value which people say, well, how do I know those
But you'd still be risk. But the people who inherited from you would have to pay estate tax.
No, only if it's more than $10 million of an estate.
Is it 10 million?
It's like 12 or 13 per person now. So if you have a couple,
I thought it was 5. No,
it's gone up. Trump, man, it's gone up a good amount. You have a couple, I think you're up to like 22 or 23 million now for an estate. Yeah, that's a lot of. Yes, then they get you.
Yeah.
Right. But I mean, we're talking about average people here.
Yeah, sure. I get it.
Most people that retire with a house they live in and 3 rental properties, and these are all paid off. In today's dollars, they're living high on the hog.
Right.
You know, they're making $150,000 a year doing nothing with no
Plus,
living
you can
expenses.
take money out tax-free essentially by borrowing against it. Yeah.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Bingo. You can. People say, "Oh, you want to develop a business? Don't buy real estate." I hear that all the time.
So is that what you do? You teach people how to do that?
Exactly.
Do you have a home study course for that? Like, how does it work?
Yeah, I have a real estate investing course. I honestly, I looked at the straight line system because after I looked at your book, I'm like, this shit's good, man. This is good. I kind of sounded like Grant there. It's like, I can fix that. No. Seriously, your book, and I'm not just saying this because I'm on your podcast.
No, I know.
There were parts. I'm going to be straight up with you. I'm one of those people that I'm not a big fan of scripts. And I listened to your arguments in the book. I'm like, it actually related because guess what I did this summer? I went selling door-to-door pest control just to see.
Really?
When I'm winging it, I don't sell anything.
Yeah.
Once I knew the product,
Yeah.
in the same day, I learned this. There's a YouTube video on this. It has like 150,000 views. In the same day, I go from closing nothing to sitting down for coffee with the person, the active pest control guy, Chandler, who's putting this together. Trains me like, let's teach you some more about the product, and let's teach you some of our sales, not tricks, but techniques.
Yeah.
Like actual techniques. And
Where were you selling it? What part of the world?
San Diego.
San Diego.
Yeah. So, and I mean, I like to think that I'm great at sales, but you can always learn more. That's a cool thing about sales is you could learn like this much and make a lot, and then you could keep learning on that because there are always different techniques. Anyway, then I go from selling nothing in the early part of the day to closing 3 transactions, door-to-door pest control, where people have to give you the credit card now. There's no, I'll call you back with the listing agreement later. I'll docu-sign it to you. No, I need your credit card now. That right there would have been somewhere around $800 in commissions for me as a sales rep.
Right.
And I'm like, this is my first day doing this. People do this 90-day thing and they learn how to sell or whatever. Like, It really teaches people, like, wow, selling. That's where you make the money.
I think people misunderstand scripts. Again, scripts it's almost like dynamic scripting.
yeah.
It's not like it's a script where you're like, "Hi, my name is." Like,
That's what you think of. You immediately think of this robotic,
no, it's the exact opposite.
And I hear people that I get so many freaking solicitations. You hear all this crap all the time. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're just literally sitting there reading a piece of paper. I'm like,
exactly. That's the exact opposite. I mean, it's really about that. There's, I call it the truth well told. There's the best way to always explain something, right? And if you try to wing it, you're probably not going to end up with the best way. So you might as well kind of construct that best way. And then if you look at it this way, I guess the best metaphor I use is like every movie that you've seen that made you cry or laugh, or every TV show you binge watch, they were all scripted. Yeah. People learn the art of reading from a script without sounding like it. Also, when you're face-to-face, obviously you don't have a script in front of you. You actually memorize core patterns and so forth. But anyway, so listen, buddy, let me tell you something. I think you're doing great. No, we gotta end it because this has been a really long one. But I gotta tell you something. I commend you for the things you've done. I think you could get better legal advice in terms of how you combat people that want to. People. Someone's trying to lawsuit you to death. It's pretty easy to combat that. I've been on the other side of that. I've been on both sides. I'll admit I've done what Grant has done. I've used my money and power to sue someone, knowing I know all those tricks. I've been the guy doing it as well. And I've been on the other side of it, right? So it's pretty easy to combat that. But anyway, most importantly, you've got a lot of good stuff figured out at a young age, right? If I were you, I'd be selling higher price items and also expand your teaching business because you can probably make the most doing that.
I gotta raise my price, man. I'm at like $280. I'm like, I gotta 10x this price.
All right, guys, listen, another episode of the Wolf's Den. Share this with your friends. Like it, comment on it. This is a really good one. A lot of information here. And I will see you again. I think it's probably 2 days from now or maybe next week. Take care.